Welcome back, gentlemen. Today we are digging through the old scrap pile to pull out these forgotten rusty steel files. These bad boys are usually made of high-carbon tool steel like 1095 or W1, making them prime material for a devastatingly sharp blade. Make sure to hit that subscribe button before we accidentally set the place on fire. Time to make some serious noise. This chop saw is slicing through that hardened high-carbon steel like butter, throwing a spectacular fireworks show of hot sparks across the shop. Keep your gloves on tight and your eyes shielded, fellas. We are cutting through all three files simultaneously to get a nice bundle of identical metal plates. All right, the dust has settled and we've got our raw pieces. Now we stack them up like a high-stakes game of metal Jenga. The teeth on these files are going to create internal voids if we aren't careful, but that's exactly what will help trap the forge welding magic and create our custom pattern layers later on. Let's lock this bundle down with a solid clamp so nothing shifts around. Precision is key before we fuse them permanently. While the stack is squeezed tight, it's time to gear up. Out with the light blue work gloves and in with the heavy-duty leather welding mitts because things are about to get incredibly bright and hot. Welcome to the Thunderdome. We're cranking up our gas forge to standard forge welding temperatures, pushing way past 2200 degrees Fahrenheit until the steel turns a glowing orange-yellow. This intense heat softens the crystalline structure of the high-carbon steel, preparing the atoms to bond into a single, unified mass. Now we hit it with a heavy dusting of white anhydrous borax flux powder. The borax melts instantly, creating a liquid glass barrier that seals out oxygen and dissolves any nasty surface scale or oxides. Without this step, your layers will never stick, leaving you with a useless pile of scrap. We start with deliberate solid hand hammer blows right down the center of the block. We aren't trying to reshape it yet, we're just squeezing out the excess liquid flux and forcing the clean metal surfaces into permanent contact. Give it a vigorous scrub with the wire brush to knock off any remaining slag or oxidized crust. Let's add another healthy pinch of borax powder to keep everything protected before the next heat cycle. Back into the forge it goes for a deep heat soak. We need this billet at a uniform, blistering yellow heat before we unleash the big guns. Once it's fully cooked, we march it over to the power hammer. This mechanical beast is going to do the heavy lifting that our puny human arms can't manage. Listen to that rhythm. The power hammer strikes with immense force, drawing out our thick stacked billet into an elongated, cohesive bar of tool steel. We keep rotating it 90 degrees to forge all sides evenly, ensuring the layers weld together flawlessly without any internal delamination or nasty cold shuts. We'll set it down and let it cool below critical temperature. Watch how the color transitions from vibrant orange to a dull, crusted purple-gray as the thermal energy dissipates into the shop air. Next up is rough grinding. We clamp our new billet into the vise and fire up the angle grinder to strip away that thick layer of dark forged scale. We need to expose 100% clean, bright metal on the surfaces because we are about to cut and restack this bar to multiply our layer count significantly. Back to our favorite high-precision instrument, not the tape measure. We're checking the dimensions of our flattened bar and dividing it up equally. Back under the chop saw blade for round 2. Slicing through our newly forged billet is a great test to see if the initial forge weld held up. If it splits open now, we cry and start over. But look at those clean, solid cross-sections. No delamination here, folks. Just solid high-carbon goodness. We stack our 4 clean pieces neatly on top of one another and squeeze them together tightly with the clamp, ensuring there are absolutely no air gaps between the layers. Time to run some serious MIG beads along the seams of our new stack. We are completely sealing the edges of this multi-layered block. Slide the new block right back into the belly of the beast. We need a thorough, even soak so the core of the block is just as hot and malleable as the outside edges. Out it comes, shining like the sun. Even though we sealed the edges, a little extra borax flux around the ends doesn't hurt. We start with quick solid blows from the hand hammer to compress the new stack. Every strike sets the weld deeper, turning 4 separate blocks into a single block of steel. Once it's blazing yellow, we transition back over to our mechanical power hammer. This is where we draw the billet out from a short, stubby block into a long, usable knife blank. Watch the power hammer reshape this piece. We're flattening it down to the desired thickness, then flipping it onto its narrow edges to keep the bar perfectly squared up. Constant manipulation keeps the grain structure refined and ensures the dimensions stay uniform down the entire length of the bar. We let our newly elongated bar cool down to a workable temperature before clamping it tight into our heavy bench vise. We grab our angle grinder outfitted with a thick cutting disc and begin grinding deep, parallel grooves across the face of the steel. We are deliberately cutting through the top layers of our forged billet. Don't go too deep, or you'll slice the bar completely in half, which would be an epic fail. This process takes a steady hand and a bit of patience. We're cutting multiple evenly spaced notches all the way down the length of the bar. When we forge this flat again, the deeper layers will be pushed up to the surface, creating those beautiful, wavy Damascus steel lines everyone loves. With our grooves cleanly cut, it's time to heal the wounds we just inflicted. We slide the notched bar back into the roaring gas forge. We need to heat it back up to a bright, malleable orange so we can forge these valleys completely flat, which will distort our layered pattern beautifully. Bringing it back to the power hammer, we use the flat dies to crush those ridges right down. As the hammer compresses the peaks, it forces the underlying layer structures to expand outward into the grooves. This is how you manipulate a simple layered stack into a complex, wavy pattern. We keep running it under the power hammer until the surface is completely flat and smooth again. The grooves are gone, but the internal distortion remains, locked inside the steel matrix. We've officially created our custom pattern-welded steel blank, perfectly sized for a rugged knife blade. Now we clamp it back into our trusty vise. It's time to clean off the fire scale once again. We're using a coarse flap disc on the angle grinder to give us a perfectly clean, smooth, and shiny canvas to work on. Now comes the artistry. We take a black permanent marker and sketch our custom knife profile directly onto the steel blank. Make sure you're happy with the lines before you start cutting away metal. Torch off, grinder on. We're using a thin, high-speed cutting wheel to rough cut the profile out of our forged plate. Follow the marker lines carefully and let the tool do the work. Forcing it will just shatter the disc, and nobody wants a face full of flying abrasive shrapnel today. We are carefully trimming away all the excess chunks of steel along the perimeter of our design. It takes a few strategic relief cuts to navigate those tight handle curves safely. Time to refine this wild piece of metal, gentlemen. We are moving over to the heavy disc sander to clean up our rough profiling cuts. Blacksmithing life hack. 101. Never forget the dunk bucket. Every few seconds, we plunge the hot steel into cold water. Friction from these heavy machines creates insane heat real quick, and if the blade gets too hot, you risk ruining the hardness of this high-carbon steel, turning our hard work into a soft letter opener. Watch those glorious orange sparks fly. This takes a ton of control and consistent pressure to ensure we get a nice, even grind across the main body of the tool steel without gouging the face. Now we are rocking the angle grinder to refine these bevels and flatten out the blade face. It takes a steady hand and zero distractions in the shop to keep these primary lines perfectly crisp. No fancy expensive belt grinders here, gentlemen. Just pure, unadulterated grinding disc wizardry, throwing a blinding wall of hot sparks. Check that out. Smooth, clean lines and a solid profile are starting to emerge. Now we flip it over to clean up the spine, the finger guard, and those tricky inner handle curves. You've got to navigate these tight radiuses carefully, unless you want your custom handle comfort to feel like holding a jagged piece of scrap metal. Back into the roaring fire it goes. We are heating this high-carbon tool steel up to its critical temperature, right around 1500 degrees Fahrenheit, where the molecular structure transforms into austenite. And now, the moment of truth. We plunge the glowing blade straight into a vertical bath of engine oil for the quench. Boom! The oil instantly ignites into a beautiful wall of fire, rapidly cooling the metal to lock the carbon atoms into a hyper-hard, brittle martensite crystal structure. This is where a blade either becomes a legend or cracks. The blade survived the stress test completely intact. We clamp the hardened steel to a block and bring out the angle grinder fitted with a flexible pink polishing pad to cleanly strip away the oil crust and bring out that brilliant metallic shine. We clamp our newly ground blade securely onto a wooden backing board and give the blade a generous spray of water to act as a lubricant. Then we grab our sanding block wrapped in coarse grit sandpaper. The fluid keeps the paper from instantly clogging up with microscopic steel dust, allowing the abrasive particles to cleanly cut away the heavy machine lines. Put some serious shoulder into it, boys. Hand sanding is all about maintaining a completely linear stroke from the plunge line all the way to the tip. We are systematically erasing the vertical machine marks and replacing them with a uniform, horizontal, hand-rubbed satin finish. Time for the main event. Enter the ferric chloride acid. We open up the bottle and pour the dark golden liquid directly into the tray until the entire blade is fully submerged. This acid is going to selectively eat away at the different layers of steel based on their specific chemical compositions. Now for the final polish. While keeping the blade submerged in the water, we take a piece of ultrafine sandpaper and gently scrub the flats. This cleans off the loose dark oxides on the raised surfaces, creating a brilliant, high-contrast look between the bright nickel steel and the dark carbon layers. All right, the chemical etching is out of the way, so it's finally time to give this blade some actual teeth. We are clamping our dual grit whetstone block into the bench vise and soaking it with a heavy mist of water. Proper lubrication is key unless you want to ruin your stone. Next up, we transition to the leather strop mounted on a wooden block, prepped with a layer of blue polishing compound. This cleanly strips away any microscopic wire burrs clinging to the apex, leaving us with a wicked mirror-polished edge. Time for the ultimate moment of truth, the paper slice test. Look at that blade absolutely glide through a loose sheet of paper without a single catch, snag, or tear. But a real shop tool needs to do more than just slice paper to show off. We're locking a thick wooden block into the vise to give this high-carbon steel a proper stress test. Watch the blade brutally hack deep chunks right out of the wood, absorbing heavy impact shocks without chipping or rolling the edge. And here is the final masterpiece resting proudly on the anvil. Born from a stack of old rusty files, we successfully forged a beast of a Damascus steel blade with high-contrast pattern lines and a perfectly matched integral grip. If you loved watching this piece of junk get resurrected, smash that subscribe button, drop a comment, and go make something awesome.